Welcome to the Book Buzz Show with Cheryl, where we dive into the captivating world of books. Here at the Book Buzz Show, we encourage you to make your pages turn with joy and immerse yourself in a magical literary experience. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Book Buzz Show with Cheryl, where we dive into the captivating world of books. Here at the Book Buzz Show, we encourage you to make your pages turn with joy and immerse yourself in a magical literary experience. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome to the Book Buzz Show. I am your host, Cheryl Brooks. And if you are new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Also, if you are enjoying the upcoming show, please make sure to like, follow, subscribe, and share the broadcast so others can also know about it. For those of you who are new here at the Book Buzz Show, we do discuss the book and the characters. So there will be some minor spoilers, but we don't give anything major away that will take away from you enjoying the read. In addition to this being a live broadcast, the Book Buzz Show is also a podcast, and you can follow us on podcast platforms under the Book Buzz Show with Cheryl, so you can listen to us when you're on the go. Also, tonight's episode is being brought to you in partnership with Black Odyssey Media. And let me just put that up. Black Odyssey Media, check out their roster of authors. I'm sure you can find several authors that you would like to check out. And you can check out Black Odyssey at blackodyssey.net. Here are a few of their authors, and one of those books that's on the screen we will be talking about tonight, Flames of Wrath. And let me show you that cover. Beautiful cover, by the way. Flames of Wrath by J.L. Campbell. And for those who are listening, of course you can't see it, but again, it's Flames of Wrath by J.L. Campbell, and I highly recommend it. Take that off. All right. Without further ado, I'm going to bring on tonight's guest, J.L. Campbell, and then also my co-host for this evening, Shavana Futrell. And let me bring them to the stage. I don't know why I'm seeing some kind of black spot on my on my screen. Oh well, we'll rock with it. Okay. All right. Welcome, ladies, to the Book Buzz Show.
Thank you, and good evening.
Good evening.
And let me just bring this up so people know what the name of the book is. And looks like we have a few people in the audience. Facebook user, if you go to the link in the description, you can just click that and it'll give StreamYard permission where we can see your name. Hello, Jennifer. Welcome. Hello, Francis. Welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. And welcome, Sherelle. Thank you for joining us. All right, so we're going to get right into it. We have a lot to discuss. And so, JL, if you could tell us, give us a little bit about your writing journey, how you got started.
When I was 12.
Well, I mean your professional writing journey. You don't have to go all the way back that far if you don't want.
Anywho, I started by writing articles, and from articles, I graduated to short stories. And then, one day someone said to me, this is a good short story. How about if you tried writing a book? And I said, okay, I accept that challenge. And then I proceeded to write something that it was a hot mess, as you Americans would
Oh
say.
no.
But I worked on it for like 5 years, and eventually a publisher said yes. So I guess it was worth the effort.
Okay. And how long did it take you in that with that first book? How long did it take you from the time that you started writing to when you got it published?
5 years. five
Okay.
years to, Actually 6 years. 5 years to get it to where I wanted it, and then the publisher said yes, and then the editing and so on. So about 6 years.
Okay. And now, is this your first time writing in this genre? Is this would this could be considered like thriller?
Yes, it is. My usual where I started was romantic suspense,
Okay.
and it's a genre that I love. But I write all over the place, so I've strayed from that. But this thriller came to you compliments of Black Odyssey Media, because
Okay.
they saw the potential, and I pitched a romantic suspense, and Shawanda said to me, "Well, what about if you tried this? What I'm looking for is so so and so." And I said, "Okay, let me think about it." And I thought about it and came up with with this story.
And so, were there any challenges in writing in a different genre?
Of course.
What challenges did you face?
um, I kind of knew that romantic suspense writing that would help with this,
Okay.
and so I had to do my research, had to read about the genre, had to read, not widely, but just read some stuff, so I knew what on earth I was doing. And but research has always been my thing, so I enjoy actually having to research to learn something new.
Did you actually go and read some thrillers to get the flow and the pace of the?
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. I did that.
Now, when you're deep in writing mode, what does a typical day look like for you?
Well, a typical day for me is work. So I have grown used to being able to write before work,
Hmm.
write when it's lunchtime, and write in the evenings. So that
Okay.
has been my whole writing life, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have any like writing quirks that like routines or favorite things that you have to have when you're writing?
No. I'm boring like that. No. I may read a little first, I may edit a little, and then I go back into the story. I know it's said that we really should not be editing while we're writing,
Hmm.
but if I don't have a clean chapter, like I wrote this one last night, and if it's not
Okay.
clean, I can't move until I have gone through that and read it and refreshed my memory. Or the last chapter that had to do with a particular character. I do not recommend this to writers. We're told not to do this, but it works for me, so I work
And
with it.
that's what important whatever works
Mhm.
for you. But it makes sense though that you would need that to keep yourself, to go to the next thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you first started out?
That no matter how well you write, not everything is marketable. Not
Hmm.
everything will sell. you know
Hmm.
but there are those of us who we don't write to market.
Right.
Not everybody does that. Like there's the bully romances now and so on. Not everybody is capable of writing to that, because that's not your passion, and if that's not your passion, it's going to be obvious to the reader.
Okay.
So yeah.
Hmm. I like that. Looks like we have somebody else in the audience. Hi, Lisa. Thank you for joining us this evening. All right. And now, what advice would you give someone else who's just starting out?
Learn the craft. It's the best gift you can give yourself. um you never stop learning as a writer.
Hmm.
So that's one of the things that took me so long, because I didn't know anything about writing fiction when I decided I was going to write this book. So most of us learn as we go along, and that's a good
Right.
thing too. You
Right.
gain experience and so on. But yeah, learning the craft is craft is very, very important.
And how would a person go about doing that? Would you mean like workshops and things like that?
You could, but for somebody like me, what I did was I've read thousands of articles. It can be confusing, but you know when you've hit some gems,
Mm-hmm.
and so it never hurts to continue reading and to continue researching. And that's how I learned a lot. I've just read a lot of things. I've read books, I've read articles. Yes, that works for me.
Okay. Now, what keeps you motivated in life and in writing?
It's gonna sound crazy if I say that for some of us, even if we don't make money on a book, just knowing that people have read it is what is really, really important. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so the fact that someone will say to me, you know, this particular thing touched me, or that particular thing, or boy, I wasn't thinking about things like that, but you really showed me something, and I really, really enjoyed that. And yeah, that just warms the cockles of a writer's heart.
I can imagine. Yes. Let me see. We have Ola. Hi, Ola. Thank you for joining us this evening. Um, Now, for those who haven't read the book yet, can you give us like a synopsis or overview of what the book is about? Because I tell you, when I was reading it, it reminded me of something that was in the news a couple of years ago,
Hmm.
and that's what it reminded me of. But can you let everyone know what the book is about?
Okay, so Alexia comes to Jamaica on spring break. She is abused, she's attacked, she's assaulted, and her mother, who is a cybersecurity expert, takes things into her own hands when the police, when she perceives that the police are not doing everything that they can to assist her daughter.
Mm.
So Geneva basically wreaks havoc.
Yes, she does. um, okay, so before we get into the actual book and the characters, this would be a good time, I think, to do the excerpt for you to read a little bit of the sample you're going to read.
Oh, okay. You just stop me when I've done enough, because I'll keep going.
Okay, and I'm gonna bring you front and center, so
uh,
you won't see us, but we'll be right here.
okay. The urgent beeping from the machines woke Geneva from a light doze. Alexia arched and flopped back on the bed. Her head beat against the pillow, and the whites of her eyes made Geneva shudder. She leaped to her feet, bolted to the door, yanked it open, and shrieked, "We need a doctor in room 4." An unfamiliar doctor and a nurse rushed past. Then another hurried in, rolling a crash cart. One of the nurses gently guided Geneva back to the door. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Layton. Please wait outside. We'll update you as soon as she's stable." Tears brought on by anxiety and frustration stung Geneva's eyes. One solid week, and the police still had not given her anything she could use. They were dead silent on the people responsible for Alexia's condition. Geneva had memorized the list of names from a conversation with Alexia when she mentioned several friends who were part of the trip. They had likely settled back into life as they had known it before they left Miami. Her daughter didn't have that luxury. That made her furious. Worse than anything, Alexia's best friend had not come to Jamaica. She'd opted to fly to Aruba with her family. Her mother was recovering from a bout with cervical cancer, and Danielle wanted to be near her. Geneva certainly understood that. Her only regret was knowing that if Danny had been in Jamaica, Alexia might have fared better. The two had been looking out for each other since they connected on their first day in high school. Alexia's boyfriend also hadn't made the trip. So far, Geneva had spoken with him once and updated him several times by text. Spence hurried down the corridor, his long legs making short work of the ceramic tiles. "What happened? I heard them asking for Dr. Harewood from room 4 on the intercom." A vice gripped her throat, and several seconds went by before she spoke in a strangled voice. Alexia, she had another seizure. Oh God. Spence put a hand to his forehead and stepped out of the way as Dr. Harewood raced toward where they stood. He gave them a grim nod, then stepped into the room and closed the door firmly behind him. Spence leaned against the wall with his eyes closed. Deep lines bracketed his mouth and marked his forehead. The skin beneath his eyes was dark and puffy from lack of sleep. His sun-kissed skin, several shades lighter than Alexia's, was pale, and his mouth drooped at the corners. At 48, he was quite an attractive man. That and his inclination to stray had brought trouble to their marriage. Geneva switched her mental channel and said a prayer. 2 days had gone by without a seizure, and here they were again. This private hospital was the best in Montego Bay, but she knew that first world facilities in Miami were what they needed for Alexia. If she required more specialized treatment, that would also be available. They had already made the reservation to airlift her off the island if only she'd remained stabilized long enough to travel. The door swung open and a nurse hurried down the corridor. Through the crack, Geneva couldn't see anything other than the pale blue gowns and scrubs worn by the treatment team. She was startled when Spence touched her arm and moved her out of another nurse's way. Her phone vibrated in the back pocket of her jeans, and Geneva eased it out to look at the screen. Jaden was calling. Hey Mom, what's happening? We're at the hospital. She glanced at Spence, who now sat staring at his hands. Lexi just had a turn again. Oh, I just landed. I'll get Grandma to bring me over. Fine, but you may not get to see her right away. I understand. Jaden raised his voice above the sound of heavy-duty equipment. See you soon. She was about to end the call when he said, I have something to show you. Good news, I hope. Depends on how you look at it. With her gaze fixed on her sandals, Geneva frowned. That does not sound positive. Don't worry about it. You can decide when you have a look. Sure, baby. Spence shifted and their eyes met. His were red and watery. He really needed sleep. Tell Grandma to be careful on the road. Jaden chuckled. In that case, maybe I should drive. Don't even play about that boy. Her tone was light, but they both knew she meant every word. Taxi drivers were notoriously reckless. That was part of the Jamaican landscape. Nearly 350 persons were killed in road accidents every year, and 80% of the victims were male. Not good for such a small island. The last time he visited, Jaden had been in an altercation that almost cost his life. The cab driver who caused the crash had threatened to stop Jaden if he reported the incident to the police. Jaden did exactly that, with the result that the police detained the man overnight, then charged him for the threats he made. Sometimes, Geneva regretted that both her children were as hard-headed as she. Spence's calm demeanor was a good foil for her fiery disposition, but a little more of him in their kids would have been a blessing. The door
Okay, that's
swung
good.
open. Hmm?
That's good.
And Dr. Harewood stepped into the corridor.
That's good. Let me go back to okay. All right. Very intriguing, and
Yes.
I have to say this was a very emotional read for me from the very first
Yes.
opening scene, and especially the scene that followed. Now, was it difficult to decide whether or not to put everything that happened to Alexia in the book, or did you think that was paramount to the story?
It was important to the story. If you notice where she's assaulted, I didn't make it too graphic. I mean,
It was kind of,
yeah. All right. What I should say. What I should say. What I should say is that the part. All right. Let's put it this way. The part where she was assaulted by the young man. I tried not to make that
oh
graphic
yeah,
because
okay,
I know
yeah,
that that would be a trigger for some
right, right.
people. So that I tried not to make graphic.
Okay, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I can see. Yeah, I can see that. Um, but even though it was difficult, and it was emotional for me the entire read, but it was still very, um, and very. I was intrigued and I was engrossed in the story. Um, now, one thing I noticed, I started out feeling one way about Geneva, her mother, but I ended up not being as sympathetic towards her towards the end.
Mhm.
Um, was that intentional to make her not as sympathetic the further you went into the story?
She eventually worked out like that because there are some women that when they're fine when you leave them alone, and then when you mess with them and you mess with their children, they become monsters. Yeah,
Right.
Jennifer is one of those.
And I understood the way she felt, and especially how slow everything was going,
Mm,
and how they tried to sweep everything under the rug in Jamaica. But then I think that she lost sight of what really was important, which was her daughter, who was
mhm,
recovering, and because it could have still been a lot worse,
right.
and she was losing sight of her family,
Mhm,
and she was taking risks that could take her away from what she was trying to protect. So, uh,
right.
I, that kind of made me think a certain way too. But I think what really did it for me was Deja, in the way she treated
Mm,
in the way she treated
yeah,
her.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, that cemented it for me.
Right, right, right. And it affected me too. It impacted me. You know, having her go down like that.
Yes, yes. I'm like, oh my goodness. What about you,
I
Shavana? What did
felt
you think?
I felt like she I understood, like I said, but I felt
Mhm.
like she was not putting herself in those other parents'
Yes,
shoes
Yeah.
because
yes.
of what she was doing, and I'm
Mhm.
That's a
like,
good that's a good point, because I think she didn't even think about whatever she
how
was
they
doing
were
was going to
right,
affect other people besides
right,
uh
She
these
comes across as a sociopath.
right, right.
most
In some
definitely.
respect.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
and I think
Trying to say it
in her
gently without
kids,
giving away
right,
spoilers.
right.
Yeah.
But her kids, Ashley and
Mhm.
her husband, knew that she had that in her. They all
Right,
were
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm worried about but you going too far.
right.
Um,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
Alexia even stopped telling her as much because she was worried about what she might do.
Mm-hmm. She
And
might.
her brother, he questioned his mother, and of course she denied everything, but he wasn't fooled. So they knew who their mother was, and who their
Right.
and Spencer knew who his spouse was. Um, and like I said, some parts of it were admirable to me because she was a mama bear. She was gonna make sure that her daughter
Mhm.
was getting justice.
Right.
Right.
But
And cared for. Mm-hmm.
right, and cared
Mhm.
for. So I admired those traits in her. Um, but man, she took
I
it.
know we need a book discussion.
Yeah, she took it to a whole nother
Mhm.
level.
She
But
did.
I felt so bad too for Alexia,
Yeah.
and it reminded me of when you hear about mob mentality,
Mm-hmm.
when ordinarily on their own they wouldn't have done anything, but with the mob, with everybody egging each other
Right.
on,
Right. Right.
um, what can happen in that instance.
Right.
Now, did you hear about the what happened to, I can't remember if she was from New York, but she went on a trip with so-called friends, and they beat her to death.
Yes.
And
At that time. I don't know. At that time, I would have almost finished or would have been in editing. And
Oh
I
my
Oh,
goodness.
said,
wow.
whoa.
Right.
Because yeah, I don't understand. Those things I do not understand.
Right.
I don't understand how you can just, if you're smoking weed or you're on drugs, maybe I can understand that you are out of your mind and so you're doing things that are beyond the ordinary. Or you just get caught up in the mob. But that I don't understand.
Yeah,
But
I
some
definitely
things
couldn't.
are just, they're unthinkable and yet
Right.
they're happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Which is
yeah,
scary.
And they're getting away with it.
that's the painful part. That's
Hmm.
the painful part.
Because I never heard what actually happened in that case. Did they
I
get
think they got
tried?
off. I think they got
Yeah.
away.
Nothing happened really. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Terrible,
And
terrible, terrible.
and I feel like in JL's book, they probably would have got off too if it wasn't for Mama.
Who knows?
Excuse me, I started coughing, so excuse me.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
now another thing that I noticed too, Deja had her own guilt, although it was misplaced guilt as far as I'm concerned, because she never knew. She had no way of knowing that something like that could happen.
Right.
But I
So to
still
me,
felt like she shouldn't have left her friend. Something should have clicked to her. If we were that close, something should have
Mm.
clicked.
you think,
Especially with her not being on the plane. Yeah.
Mhm. Yes. You see, you know what I'm finding? Today's kids are so different from people of our age. Yeah.
Hmm.
Because when I say to my son, something happened, a parent died, and he had been in touch with the kids and everything. And then when I said to him, well, isn't it time to talk to them again or just reach out again? He said to me, Mommy, it's too soon. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. Some
So he
people,
said
yeah,
to me,
they
well,
do.
Mommy, you just don't understand. And I said, okay. But it's a whole different world.
It is.
It's
It
a
is.
whole different world.
And I get that sometimes it's too soon, but you still got to make that okay. Give them a couple hours, give them a day, but after a day, I think you need to,
Yeah,
reach out. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah.
Because a day turns into more days and weeks, and that
Right.
to
And
me,
then
I'm
you
kind of
forget.
yep thinking it's too soon, and then I look back and it's been 3 or 4 days, and I'm like, dang, I really forgot, to reach out.
Yes.
But I
Yes.
I truly believe that with her, something should have clicked sooner
Mm-hmm.
with Deja. Yeah, about it,
Mm-hmm.
her friend. And she never reached out to her that night and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
on mute, Cheryl.
oh, sorry, didn't she ask questions when she was on the plane? Seemed like I remember her asking.
She did, but she didn't think nothing about it. She asked
Right.
questions, but she wasn't, in my opinion, she wasn't too. I would have been like, I don't think I would have got on the plane if it was my friend. If
Mm,
she wasn't at that airport, even though her family lived in Jamaica, I don't think I would have got on the plane without her. Without at least calling and speaking to her, and she's saying, "I'm gonna catch a later flight or something." You know what I'm saying?
right, because I think Deja did contact the grandmother, but
Mm-hmm.
and then that's when the grandmother told her what happened.
Yeah.
But now, see, that's see how different. Because I was thinking that there was no way for her to know. I can understand if they had started before where they had started where they started making her uncomfortable, and
Hmm.
that's what made her leave early.
Right.
Mm.
But they hadn't gotten to it in to the point where they were in some kind of like frenzy or anything like that.
Hmm.
So from when Geneva, was putting all of this on her, I thought that was kind of like unfair, but
Yeah.
because she didn't, she didn't intentionally
Right.
Right.
leave her in harm's way. She actually was the best friend that she had because
That's true.
the
Right.
ones that
That's
they
true.
thought were best friends,
Didn't show up.
basically dumped her,
Right. Right.
Mm.
which I also thought was terrible.
Right. You find
But
out who your
my
true friends are.
right, you definitely in times of trouble, you find out who you
Who
can
your
depend
friends
on.
are.
Hmm.
Right. Right.
Yes. Now, what I thought you did a great job of too is I actually started. especially with Christian. I actually started feeling sorry for him at a certain point. But then I remember what happened,
What he did.
and then
Yes.
that squashed all of that. but but they were true predators because it was you saw that they had a pattern. Not so much Christian, I don't think, but the other two.
The other two, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, where they had a pattern of abusing the females and now
Mhm.
I wasn't sure were they actually on steroids or were they just dealing steroids.
No, they're just evil.
Okay. Because I was trying to I was like, okay, I know steroids can, they say can change a person's
Mm,
personality
mm.
and all of that. But so I'm like, is that what the problem was? But yeah, I think you're right. They were just evil and they were spoiled and entitled.
Mm, mm.
Because I cannot even fathom beating somebody halfway to death. They didn't even know if they had beaten her to death, and just leaving her and getting
Mm.
on a plane and going home
Mhm.
like nothing happened. But
As if nothing
Yeah.
happened.
oh my god, I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. Still can't.
Mhm.
Um, just
And that's what made Geneva so mad because they went back to their lives, and here she was, her daughter, just basically starting life all over again. You know.
right. But she was a fighter. I admired Alexia and just her whole outlook
Mm.
because she wasn't bitter.
Right.
She was just concentrating on getting herself together and getting herself well. Because even when
Mhm.
she started remembering things, she still wasn't bitter. Her mother, I think her mother, when she saw how her mother was, I guess she said
Right.
she doing
Yes.
enough of that for both of us. So,
Yes. No. Yes.
um,
Definitely.
but I like the dynamic too of Geneva and Spence,
Mm.
her husband, and when all of this happens, their marriage is not in the best shape.
Right.
So when he tries to be comforting to her in the beginning, she's not feeling it because they, because of
Mm.
his infidelity in the past. Um, and I like that dynamic because it also felt so realistic as far as and you've heard before, and I have heard before where traumatic events like this can tear a couple apart or it can bring them together.
Bring them closer together. Yes.
Right. And they were already in a in a bad way. But
Mhm.
I was glad to see that it actually, brought them closer in a way. But they still had their issues. It wasn't like everything was forgiven and all of this, but um they were basically parents of this, you know, damaged girl. Spent some time though, his laid back, the way he was about his father, how
Right.
lackadaisy he was,
Right.
had me at side eyeing him a little bit.
Right. Because that was a big cover up.
Yes, and for him not to think anything was wrong with that, kind of
Right.
had
Mm.
me questioning. Okay, what is going on with you? You
Right.
know.
Those are
Um,
her grandparents. They should have been first on top of her.
yes,
Right.
yes. Politics or
Basically,
whatever definitely shouldn't have
Right.
come into play.
Right.
right. And he definitely, the grandfather definitely had the power to try and figure out what was going on and, do something, get something started, get something moving.
Right.
Right.
But
Now I did cheer for her when she set him straight, the grandfather and the grandma, because the grandmother didn't even know what was going on. She
clueless, clueless.
and then Spence was trying to like rein her in, and she wasn't having it. So in that sense, stuff like that, I was cheering for her. We have Rhonda McKnight in the audience. Hello, thank you for joining us.
Rhonda.
But such a great job, and like I said, the story it evoked strong emotions on so many levels, but um, it was just so heartfelt, heart wrenching in certain points. But
Hmm.
it also was a a story about the bond of family and how they all rallied around Alexia in her time of
Mm-hmm.
need. Even her brother, I loved it. Love that.
Yeah.
What you think, Shavana, about as far as the family unit?
Like you said, I like the way that they wrap it, around each other because, like you said, traumas can divide a family, and I do feel like Spence was not all in. He could have been more.
Right.
I felt like he could have done more, and like you said, I side-eyed him a lot, and I was
Me too.
I'm like, do you got something to do with this? This is your daughter, man. You know,
Right.
I
I
just
could see being a laid back person, but
right,
that was too laid back.
right. I'm gonna need you to call daddy and get what we need, cause this got to be solved. But
And he
no,
knew he had the wrong spouse for she was
right,
not having it.
right. Set him
Or I
straight.
should say he had the right spouse because
Right.
he needed somebody that could, step it up.
Mhm.
Rhonda is saying the great title. JL, did you come up with the title for the book?
No, actually, I did not. The publisher did that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, and it fits so well. It
Yes.
Yes.
fits so well.
It do. Because she was definitely a wrath of flame.
Yes.
Yes,
Now
yes.
I love that you made her a cybersecurity expert too, because some of the things that happen, is like it's scary to think
Right.
how somebody can do that. Yes.
Right. That was the scariest part of writing this book.
Yes,
Doing the
because when you
research,
think about it, yes.
yes, doing the research and realizing how open and vulnerable we are because of all the technology that we have in
Right.
our homes. We don't know how those things affect us if people are up
Hmm.
to no good. We really don't
Right.
know, you
Right.
know?
That's true. And
So,
you hear about it all the time.
mhm,
You know, things being hacked into that are,
Mm,
that are part of the hooked up to the internet or whatever.
right.
mhm.
Um, and you just, is so dangerous. And when
It is.
when she was doing all this, I'm like, my goodness, I can't even imagine.
Right.
But it's
Mhm,
possible.
Right.
mhm.
It's definitely possible. It was so ingenious. Jason's fate. um, with the shower,
Mm,
I loved it. I did not have any sympathy for him at all.
mhm.
Right.
I'm sorry, but I didn't. I didn't have any sympathy.
I ain't having any
You know,
sympathy.
you know,
Yeah.
as
I had
as bad as they were, as bad
yeah.
as they were, at certain points I was feeling sorry for them for putting them through these things. As weird as that sounds.
No, I think the only one I really felt any almost partially that for was Christian at the end, but
Yeah.
the other two not so much. Well, feel a little bit, but not even him because
Mm,
I think it wasn't it Phil. I don't know if it was him or Jason that you know were doing the most damage as far as assaulting her. Um,
mm.
so
Yeah.
no, I didn't have any none at all. I was like there for it. Um,
Oh,
that's
and
that's
I felt a little sorry for them
and
because they were
then
all like my children, some good,
yeah,
some not so good, but
yeah, but they took it to a whole other level, and then the what's the female's name?
Sansio.
Cecia. Yes.
Mm,
She also because she egged a lot of that on, even though he has a mind of his own. For him
right.
to use that as an excuse
Mm.
Right.
that she talked him into it or whatever was lame.
Entitled
But
and yeah.
yeah, but can you imagine another female doing that to? But yeah, I can't imagine because jealousy is something.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Jealousy is something
It
else.
is.
And I believe that's where a lot of what that triggered because she noticed how Christian um, was attracted to her, to
Mhm,
Alexia.
mhm,
So I think that might have had something to do with how she felt about her.
mm.
But what I was surprised that the ones that were supposed to be her friends there, were
Yep.
also, involved in all of this.
Yep. As you said, the mob mentality, and then
Mhm.
they've been drinking, and yeah. So some of them had been drinking. So
Um, Another aspect of the story that I liked was, or shouldn't say liked, but that stood out to me was Deja and her coming to terms with her abuse as a child,
Mm.
mm,
um, and how triggering all of this was for her,
hmm
and
do you
how that
know,
took on. Yeah.
the other day, I think I heard a startling statistic, and I'm trying to remember if it's 1 in 4 or 1 in 6 children have been sexually abused
Oh my
here.
goodness.
Yeah. And that was really startling. And what families tend to do is to push it under the carpet,
Mm-hmm.
pretend as if nothing is happening.
Right.
Right.
But they've made it law here now that if you know that a child is being abused in any way and you don't report it and you don't do anything at all about it, the police can lock you up.
Oh wow.
Oh really?
Yeah. Hmm.
Oh, that's good. That's
The
good.
child
I
development
I, I definitely
agency.
agree with that.
Mhm.
We need to do something like that here, but because it was crazy to me. The That's one of the emotional moments that I had. The heartfelt moment was the conversation between Deja and her mother after she was in the hospital, and her mother blaming her.
Yes. You see what I'm telling you about trying to push it under the carpet, and it happened
Right.
years ago, leave it alone.
Right.
Yes. Like,
Like,
how dare
really?
you bring this up now?
Right.
That's basically what she was saying to her, and I couldn't believe it. I just
Mhm.
throughout the entire story, I felt so bad for Deja.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I felt so bad for her, and she didn't have a support system at all, and what Geneva was doing was cruel,
And it
using her
made
the
her
way that
easy
she
prey
did.
for Geneva.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Rhonda is saying that
Wow.
that's accurate. She worked for Family and Children's Services. The numbers are really high, especially in the
Wow.
southern states. Oh my goodness,
Wow.
that's terrible.
We not allowing our children to grow up, as children. I don't know what it is with men and women and people.
Mm-hmm.
And children should be safe in their own home, in their
Right.
own environment, in their own
And
families.
around people they know and love.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that was very, very tough to read, because it happens, like you all are saying, the statistics. Um, I did like Tyler, Deja's friend,
Oh, yeah.
and he was trying his best to keep her out of trouble,
Yeah.
but he didn't know her backstory either, so he didn't understand.
Right.
He didn't understand what was fueling all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And he even said, her mother. I think you're letting her mother. I don't know if he used the word manipulate, but basically he was saying that.
You're
Uh,
too deep in these people's lives.
right, and
Mm-hmm.
it was true.
Yes.
Rhonda said,
Yes.
"Hurt people hurt their
Hurt for
children,
their children. That's true. That's so true.
and sick people hurt." Yeah,
Mm.
because some people are just sick. But um, but yeah, I like Tyler, and he was a good support system for her, but she wasn't listening to him.
Right.
Um, so that was difficult and frustrating for him. And just think of what could have happened in the scene where he actually followed her when she was going to meet one of these predators.
Right.
If he
Mm-hmm.
hadn't have been there.
Right.
So she had a true friend in him, even though you could
Yes,
tell
she
that he wanted
did.
it to be more than that. But she had a true
Right.
friend in him, and Alexia had a true friend in Deja.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was just, I couldn't stand Chad and Danielle, her so-called boyfriend and her best friend.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
It's yeah. So many there were so many painful things within this one story. So much hurt,
Mm-hmm.
so much trauma, so much. Yeah, yeah,
And it was
a
definitely
lot.
eye opening because I felt for her because when they were there at the rehab facility, and they were dismissing her, wasn't they weren't paying any attention
Mm-hmm.
to her. I felt so bad for her, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Why even go visit if you're not gonna?
Right. But she found out later that her mother had some choice words for them when they
Yep,
when they left out the room.
she did. She did.
But what you meant? But what you thought? What was perfect was her putting up the wall of shame or whatever it was on.
Oh
Oh
my God.
yeah.
Geneva, the freight train.
Oh man, that was perfect. Oh man, and she called them out too, along with the rest of them.
Oh wow.
Um,
Yes.
although I'm sure her daughter, like she said, please take that down.
Right. Right. Geneva had time that day.
Yes. And then she said, "Well, at least take them off." And she said, "Okay, I'll do that since you asked me, but the rest of them stay." Oh man, but she was a force to be reckoned with, really.
Yes, she was.
And I wasn't mad at her, but only like I said, only thing I had a problem with the way she manipulated and did Deja, especially when she found out everything that the girl had been through, and she still
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Right.
that
did.
didn't stop
She
her.
didn't care.
Right. She
She
used
did
her.
not care. Yeah, she used her and
Hmm.
set her up basically.
Mhm.
Yep. To take the
Just
fall for
just
everything.
just terrible.
Right.
Um, so but great job because it was a
Yes.
really good engrossing story.
Hmm.
And even with everything that was going on, I still it kept me um wanting to know what was going to happen
Hmm.
because she was all over the place.
Yes.
And when the detective, he was on to her too, but he couldn't prove anything.
Couldn't prove
Right.
nothing. Nope.
Yeah, he kept trying to rattle her, but it was not happening.
Not
And you
at
would
all.
have thought that since he knew what she was about, that he would have been more in tune to what was going on with Deja
Mm.
and maybe try to help her out. I was hoping that was what happened, but you know.
Nope.
Is this a standalone, or are we getting another? Because we need some. I need some kind of.
Wait a minute now, sir. What you want Geneva to get in trouble? That's the only thing that can
You know what? I had got to that point. I would have rather.
Wanting
I
it's
had got
it's
to
it's
that point,
it's a natural thing to want to see somebody face justice for the things that they're doing, but
especially if they're
unfortunately.
trying to hurt some innocent. I didn't mind the
Mhm,
other stuff, but she
mhm,
was, trying to hurt an innocent person, and I couldn't get with that. I couldn't get with that. Um, I like that, Alexia had came so far and had healed,
mm.
and that they all were able to come together and have a family, um, bonding and vacation. But I was like, I could not be happy for her. I'm talking
yeah.
about Geneva now. I
Geneva,
could not
yeah.
be happy for her.
I
Um,
to, I totally understand. Like I always say, the mind of a writer is a terrible place because
so that's what made me think. Okay, are we gonna have a second part to this so we can at least get some justice for Deja? But
I,
Nah.
I
Let
don't
that
maybe
see
dog lie.
it.
that's wishful thinking. But what was hilarious to me though, what happened with Christian and his stepmother.
His stepmother. Oh my
Oh yeah.
goodness,
She,
boy,
she really put him through the ringer.
Yeah.
persistent,
Mhm.
persistent and foolish.
That was very foolish because she basically shot herself in the foot.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was
And then
very
and then to,
foolish.
And then the thing is that there are people in this world like that. You know, they want something. It's a fleeting pleasure, really.
Yeah.
But you
Right.
want this thing, and you must have this thing, even if it costs you everything.
Everything.
And it definitely did. And then she still wasn't satisfied and still tried to hurt him even hurt Christian even more,
Mm.
um, like it was his fault.
The daddy got both of them.
Ola is saying another one that she's got to get. Good, Ola, you
Yes.
will enjoy it. I have to tell you. I mean, it is some, it's going to pull at your heartstrings, but it's very good read. You'll enjoy it. And
And I see it's coming out on audio. Was out on audio. That's good.
oh, it is. I don't. Okay.
Coming
Yeah,
out
because
on.
I know Ola. She likes to print copy. So
Mhm.
we're almost at time. So before we are going to do a giveaway of a print copy of Flames of Wrath. And all you have to do is JL is going to think of a number between 1 and 100, and whoever gets the closest, if you could put it in the comments, whoever gets the closest without going over will win this amazing book, this print copy of Flames of Wrath. So please put in the comments your number from choose a number from 1 to 100. And whoever gets closest to the one that JL is thinking of without going over wins.
Let me go put my number in there. Yes, very good book, JL. Very, very good.
they're coming
Thank
in. They're
you.
coming
I
in.
just reposted my review and reposted the book on my pages. It was very good.
Awesome. Thank you
Yeah,
so
very
much.
good.
Thank you so much.
Very, very good.
I
Um,
put in my review too. I was like, I'm rethinking the smart house thing.
right.
'Cause I was working on having a total smart house here, and I was like, I
Right,
don't know about
right.
this.
No,
Yeah,
no, no, ma'am. I think
right,
I'll pass. I think I'll pass.
right.
um,
I didn't even
yes,
realize.
it is streaming
Mhm.
on Facebook on the Book Buzz Show page,
Okay.
and also in my private group. I think you're in my group. Are you in my group, Rhonda Midnight? I Inspire Books is in there, and it's also on the public page of the Book Buzz Show. Just put in the Book Buzz Show on Facebook, and it'll be there. And that's one of the issues that I had when we were first coming on. For some reason, it kept telling me error for Facebook, so I had to go out and redo it. So
Mhm.
it took a minute for us to come on. Okay, do you have the number in your head, JL?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, looks like we have Jennifer has put 55 and Ola has put 42. Which one is
My
closest?
my number is the first one. My number was 75.
Okay, 75. So Jennifer, you are closest without going over. So you have won a print copy of Flames of Wrath, and just email me your address, and then I'll mail it out to you. She has my email already, so just email me your address, Jennifer. All right. Thank you, JL, so much for coming on the show. I sure appreciate it. I really enjoyed the book. And what is Rhonda saying? She said she's in a million groups. She said she'll look up the Book Buzz Show. Yeah, just look up the Book Buzz Show to come up on Facebook. Um, and then everyone is saying great show. So thank you so much for coming on. Congratulations, Jennifer, for winning a copy of Flames of Wrath. You're really going to enjoy it, and let us know when you receive it. And make sure everyone to go out and get a copy. You'll really enjoy it. And thank you, Shavana, for coming on and guest hosting.
And
I appreciate it.
thank you, ladies, so
Thank you
so
for
much for
having
having
me.
me.
You're
Yes.
welcome. I'm still reading while we're doing this. While I was, Rhonda is saying she got it. Congrats to the winner. Nice to see you and discuss your books, JL.
Yes.
All right,
Yeah.
everyone. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for being engaged, and I'll see you all next time. Good evening.
Good
Good evening.
night.